what I'd really like to do is just kind of give a quick overview of the software. I'm assuming that most all of you have already used the program or know how to use the program. And for those that are maybe newer to the program, I just want to kind of give you a high level overview. Then we're going to dig into some inventory and some sales and some features about the program that you may not be aware of. So really, I like to keep things in a simple sort of fashion. I always, when I'm showing this program to somebody, I like to keep things simple. I like to talk about the 4 things that we generally do in the car business. The first thing that we generally do is we buy vehicles and add them to inventory. And so we have an inventory menu item, a list of things that you can do with inventory, from adding new inventory, browsing inventory, deleting inventory you don't need, managing your website. And so we've got a menu for inventory item and maintaining inventory. So having bought vehicles, the next thing we do is we sell them. And when we sell vehicles, we have a menu list here as well for selling. What we can do is we can sell vehicles retail. And a retail sale is a sale to an end user, a member of the public, if you will. Or we can sell the vehicle at wholesale. A wholesale transaction is simply a sale to another licensed dealer. And that may be through an auto auction or directly to a dealer that comes to your lot or that you work with, that you sell vehicles to. So 2 types of transactions, retail or wholesale, we can handle them both. We also have the ability, if you're not familiar, Wayne Reaves has the ability to lease vehicles. So not only can you sell vehicles, but you can also lease them if you have that option of a program turned on. And the lease class will be a class for another day, for another webinar, but I did want to at least just mention that. Today's class is focused on the buying and selling of vehicles. So selling a vehicle, another thing that's worth remembering, and we'll talk about this as we go, you can sell a vehicle at retail, you can sell it for cash money where you're getting paid all up front, or you can do buy here, pay here, where the customer is going to finance the vehicle and make payments to your lot for the balance financed, or you can do what we call outside finance sales, where you use an unrelated third-party finance company to buy the contract from you that at the point of sale, and then they'll give you a funding check to go with whatever down payment you were able to receive from the customer. And so we call bank finance deals or outside finance deals. So those are the type of deals that you might do. So you put cars in inventory, then you sell them. And then under the account receivable menu, this is where you keep up with the accounts that you have created. So if you did create an account with a bank or finance company, when you receive the check from them, you would come in here and post that payment, and that would close that account out until you post the payment. It'll be an open account where you're still owed that money. It's also where your buy here, pay here customers would be, if you have any, and your buy here, pay here customers would make payments to you. You post the payments in here, either manually as they walk into your lot, or nowadays maybe they're paying through a credit card system where they're making payments to you online, and you get a list of payments you received and you post them at the end of the day, or maybe use our CarPay partner and the payments post automatically into the software for you. So however you're taking your payments and collecting the money, the account receivable menu is where you can help keep up with that. It's where our collections module is, where our repossessions module is. It's where you have the ability to sell and purchase accounts from, you sell accounts to other finance companies. You can buy accounts from other dealers maybe. I know a lot of dealers buy accounts from fellow dealers down the street, either when times get tough for them, or when they decide they want to go out of business, or just because they don't want to do the collections themselves. And so you have that ability. The other thing that we have, once you've got the vehicles in inventory, you've sold the vehicles and you've collected the money, the 4th thing that you need the software to do is to provide you with all of the reports that you need. And basically the reports overall tell you what you bought, what you sold, and how much money you've collected. And so in a high level overview, that's really what the program does. Now, it gets a little bit more in depth, and we have built into there a whole lot of tools that we think are useful for you to help manage your business. So I think what I'll do, since we're in Florida, or currently the program is set to Florida, I think what I'll do is I'll look to add a vehicle to inventory. So what I need to do is find one. So I think what I'll do is I'll see if anybody's got a vehicle they want to sell me.
I do have a slightly used vehicle, Bob.
Kevin, you've got a slightly used vehicle that I might put in the inventory.
I do.
So what I'm going to do then, so I'm just going to assume that you're going to sell me a vehicle. And what I want to do is just add that thing to inventory. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on add the vehicle from the menu, or I could have clicked the tile right here. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you've got a vehicle, Kevin. You want to send me the VIN number, or
I'm going to send you the VIN number in the chat. There should come to you.
Got it. I see that VIN number there.
It's all paid for. It's free and clear. I just need
the money. No liens on the title.
No liens. I just need some money. I'll give you a good deal on it, Bob.
So I copied that right out the chat window. So these guys can do that too if they wanted to, and we'll just go ahead and we'll look at it. Oh, fantastic! It's a 2018 Honda Civic 4-door hatchback EX. Kevin, is it a gray car?
It's Sonic Blue. So I think for the title work we just need Sonic Gray. So it's gray. That's what we'll do. Black interior.
Oh man, that's got to make it worth more money, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's automatic.
Automatic. Fantastic. And how many miles on that car? It's actual mileage, I think, isn't it?
It's slightly used. Yeah, I think it's got like 59,375 at the moment. We don't want to guess at that, Bob.
59,375. We don't want to guess at the miles. We want to make sure it's accurate, correct?
Correct.
And it has a 6-digit odometer. So I'm going to just put all that into the system. That's pretty easy to put in. And so up here in the middle column, we've got things like it's for sale. It's going to be in stock. It's at my location, Florida test location number 7. It's used. The drivetrain, is a front wheel drive, wasn't it?
It is, yes, sir.
Front wheel drive. We've got the GVW. It's a gas vehicle. It gets good gas mileage, looks like. Who am I going to buy it from? And I can put in here, if I decide to buy this vehicle, I can add Kevin Scott in here. Just for the savings of time, I'm just going to say I'm going to buy it from Jerry Jennings. How about that? Is that good?
That's good. We don't want to let you type all that, so.
We don't want to type all that stuff in here. Bought inventory by Bob, and then state it's titled in Florida. And I'm sure you would probably have a title number that I can type in here. But what I might do, Kevin, because I want to check a little bit of a background on this vehicle, I might check for recalls first of all. How does that sound?
Oh, yes. I think I got one fixed already. Hopefully there's no more.
So I'm going to click on the recalls. And what it will do is it will copy it'll copy for me the recall status. Now, I think what I'm going to have to do, though, is go ahead and probably close some of this so that I can show you my recall screen. So let me just show you my recall screen real quick. New screen share. So what popped up was this. Do you see that now?
We got it now. Yes, sir.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in there.
So Bob, when you click that button, it just copies the VIN number?
Yeah, so when I click that, it copies the VIN number to the clipboard. So all I need to do is right click and paste it in. And so the good thing is, well, Kevin, you must have got that recall taken care of. I don't see a recall on there, so that's fantastic. And if you don't mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do a National Insurance Crime Bureau check. And again, it would copy the VIN number for me, so I can right click and paste it. Now, do you see this screen as well, or do I need to do a new screen share?
Nope, I see it.
You see that screen? Okay. So I'm going to agree to that. I'm going to tell it I'm not a robot. I'm going to click on search the VIN, and it tells me that luckily there's no theft record, but there's a total loss record, Kevin.
I don't know anything about that.
You don't know anything about that? A cause of a collision on December the 6th, 2019. Looks like the vehicle was involved in a collision.
I don't know. I'm a little fuzzy around that date, Bob.
A little fuzzy around that date. I'm sure you may be. So that's useful information. And so we've got the DMV VIN check right here as well. I'm going to click on that. And now you probably can't see that screen, so I think that popped up somewhere different. Let me see if I can go back to here. Do you see that screen now?
Got it.
So we're going to click on paste. I'm going to click on search.
Oh, got to do a little capture there.
Oh yeah, I see the captcha. XTA8A. So hopefully it'll agree with that. And here enough there. Here's the Florida title that was previous. It's active. It's got 57,000 miles on it at the time. And it looks like a new title was issued to somebody else, and it's a salvage rebuildable vehicle, Kevin. All that's useful if I'm trying to buy a vehicle, isn't it?
Oh, that's very useful. Yeah. So the real story on that is, yes, that was my car, and it was totaled. And so that's useful information. Bob, I'll point out one more thing here. Whoops. Well, that's all right. I can just say it for the Florida dealers here. It's always a good idea to check the date of issue there with the state, along with the date of issue on the title itself, just to make sure nobody's gotten a duplicate title. So there on the right side, kind of near the top, title issue date. If a duplicate has been issued, then they won't match, and that would prevent you from buying a car from somebody who is trying to pull a fast one, perhaps.
Fantastic. So can you still see that where I changed, where I pulled that back up, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alrighty. So fantastic. So there's some valuable tools there that a lot of people miss. They're available right here on this main screen. They're also available under the verification tab, at least the NICB as the recall is. We also have here the Carfax and the auto check. They may give you similar information. So good information, and I appreciate you sharing that. I'm just going to go ahead, since we've got this vehicle in here, I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in, and we'll just assume that it's a good car and it hasn't been wreck checked, Kevin. Just for the sake of a number. Now, I know that car, if it was in good shape, it would be worth, thousands of dollars. But I'm just going to go ahead, and for the sake of a demonstration later on, I'm just going to say that this vehicle is a $5,000 cost vehicle. And I'm maybe going to sell that for $89.95 with $750 down or something like that. Maybe that's what I want to get. And I'm going to go ahead and move on with to the next screen here. I want to go in here and show some repairs. If I wanted to add a repair to this vehicle, I would click on add a new repair cost. I can put in a purchase order number if there is one. Again, I can put in the mileage that we did the repair work at, 59,300. That is especially useful if I'm working with Carfax, because one of the things that we can do to Carfax is we can pass your information to them so that service record will show up in the customer's My Carfax account. A lot of folks don't realize that Carfax provide for your customers a free account basically for their vehicles. And it's a place to remind them when they need servicing and things like that. So kind of a neat service that may be available to let your customers know about. Where did I buy the part? Bought something from Advance. What did I buy? I spent $35. And what did I buy? Maybe I bought some wipers. And if I'm using general ledger information for accounting purposes, I can throw information across there. I can also check whether I've paid for this repair or not yet. So I'll just say it's not paid for. And I'm going to save that. And let's just say I have got to do something here.
While you're doing that, I'll just mention somebody has a Q&A in the there, but we'll get to that, I think, in a few minutes when we get a little further along here.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want them to think that we are ignoring them.
Yep. Now, if you want to go ahead and show that, see if I can get those to pop back up, my Q&As.
And
yeah,
also there's
here, the Jeff Cruz in Alabama, I think from Alabama, he said when using CarPay, it will post the account into WinReaves automatically. But can a notification process be set either in CarPay or WinReaves to let them know the payment was made? Yeah, great question. Certainly I can answer from the WinReaves side. What will happen is WinReaves can be set, and I'll show you this in just a little bit, to automatically send receipts when you post payments. So that could certainly happen. Would the purchase order be the invoice number or the stock number? It would probably more likely to be the invoice number for the the repair that you added. So some people use purchase order numbers to keep up with what purchases are being made and by who and when, so that you know, when Advance sends you a bill for all of the work, if you are paying later on, you can make sure you match the repairs or the purchases that you bought from Advance, the purchase you bought from AutoZone, from O'Reilly's, from Bumper to Bumper, from Napa, wherever. You can make sure that all of the parts were accounted for and none were missed and none were forgotten to be accounted for on the vehicle. So that way you always keep up with your expenses.
Bob, there's a question in the chat room too. Graham was asking, he does not have the DMV button in his software, but he's from Georgia. So that specific button it links to the Florida DMV. So that's why you're not seeing it in the Georgia software.
Yeah, say that again.
The DMV VIN check.
Yeah, my software doesn't have DMV VIN check. Now, Graham, where are you located?
Georgia.
It is in Georgia. Okay. So we don't have the VIN check now. You should have an account in Georgia, probably with Title Tech. They're our big partner in Georgia, and Title Tech will give you access to the Georgia eDrive system, where you can do the same sort of check on that VIN number. And when you do that, it will give you the same or more information, the number of liens, the number of owners, the current title number, the title issue date, exactly the same type of information. The other thing that you can do in Georgia, which is Georgia specific, is the Georgia emissions check. So if you've got a customer that's going to be in one of the 13 counties around Atlanta, then the emissions check will tell you, using the same kind of a concept. It grabs the VIN number, puts it in the clipboard, and opens up the cleanairforce.com website. And I may show you that in just a few. So in the Georgia system, but that may answer that question for you. Appreciate you stopping and letting me answer those questions. Vehicle options. I'm going to click on this. This is a kind of a neat thing. A lot of folks are not familiar with this. This allows you to print a window sticker, not that you've got people coming to your lot anymore, but it also will allow you to take all of this information and pass it over to your website. So if you have a website with Wayne Reaves, we can automatically dump all this information over there, and you'll have this available on the vehicle display page. Some people refer to that as the VDP on the website, so I can show you some of that in a little bit. But just make sure that before you send it over there, that in fact the vehicle does have all the stuff that it says it does have. Sometimes these options were things that were options and may not have been installed on the vehicle that you currently have, or they may no longer be working. Another thing to be aware of is that the satellite radio, if there's satellite radio on the vehicle, you can in fact activate the satellite radio if you wanted on a vehicle. So you can have a free account with SiriusXM. All the vehicles on your lot that have SiriusXM radios can have those radios activated, and those radios can then be transferred to a free subscription, a free trial, if you will, for 90 days for your customer. So the customer can leave the lot with our satellite radio working for 90 days. And so that's kind of a neat feature, especially maybe the difference between somebody buying your car and buying a similar one down the street that doesn't have that radio working. Who knows? So just keep that in mind. And you can set that up at no cost through the Wayne Reaves Partner Setups. We'll show you those in just a minute. Title DMV. Title number, the state it's titled in, the date on the title issue date. Make sure that matches on the records if you can. You can select some branding options down here. This is some reference information that may be useful for later on. It may give you a pop-up box later when you go to sell the vehicle to remind you that the vehicle has salvage history and the fact that it's been branded. So that may be something that would be of interest to you. It's also a place to stick in the GPS tracking device number if you're working with a GPS company that is providing you with GPS devices. I know a lot of buy here, pay here dealers that will actually preload their inventory with trackers. Well, that's a great thing in my mind. If you're going to put a tracker on a vehicle, if all your vehicles are buy here, pay here, why not go ahead and preload them? And I remember a year or two ago, one of my friends up in Dalton, Georgia, gave me a call. He had one of his vehicles stolen off his lot, Luckily, he preloads all his inventory. He was able to locate the vehicle, and believe it or not, the police found a chop shop. Not only was his vehicle there, but so were many other vehicles that the owners hadn't been so lucky. And funnily enough, the reason he called me was the question he had for me was, Bob, how do you sell a vehicle with no VIN numbers? And I asked him what in the world he was doing with a vehicle with no VIN numbers. Apparently, they'd stole the vehicle Saturday night, Sunday morning through the small hours. And by Monday morning, when they went to go get it at the chop shop, all the VIN numbers had been removed. Crazy, right? Can't make this stuff up. Floor plans. What's a floor plan? It's just the ability to have a company finance your inventory for you. And if you're using a floor plan company to floor plan your cars and provide you with floor plan money, then you can set that company up in the floor plan system and choose the plan that you want. So if you're using floor plans, play with that. If you're not, you can actually disable it so it never shows up here. You can disable it from our company settings. We'll look at some of those in just a little bit too. You can add pictures of the vehicle that you have. Why would you add pictures? Because if you've got a camera, you've taken photographs, and you want to keep up with what the vehicle looks like, you can add those pictures, and those pictures will all pass over to your website when you save the vehicle in inventory. You can make any.
Bob, if I can interrupt.
Absolutely.
Just a moment. If you'll go back to the pictures, one thing I see a lot of people miss, once you get those pictures loaded in there, down at the bottom, there's a picture caption. And so you can make notes about each one of those pictures down there. And many people don't realize that goes to your website, and perhaps that might help with a better description of what the picture's for, or a little bit of SEO there. Right.
So we can, if this was a real picture, we can put it in here, and we can highlight it, and we can type in the caption there, low miles, if it's a picture of the odometer, if it's a picture of the tire, we say, new tires, whatever we want to say. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Notes. The computer will make notes for you automatically, but you can also add your own notes, and it will tell you whether it was a system note or not. And internet, you can say, yep, I want to send it to the website. Now, we chose the color of this vehicle was gray, and depending on the state, there's color codes that the states use for coloring the vehicle as far as the title and DMV work go. But I think, Kevin, you told us that this particular vehicle was Sonic Gray.
Oh, yeah, so that's the color somebody's going to look for.
That's the color that they're looking for. So that's the color we want to show on the website. So that's the color that we want to advertise. So we can do that. And if I want to put a specific price on the vehicle on the internet, I can do that. If I say, nothing, I can say contact the dealer, and I'll just say we want $89.95 for the vehicle. And I can add categories. I don't have any categories in here, but it could be something as simple as maybe a sedan versus a pickup truck. I can create those categories, and then I can select them. So when somebody clicks on sedan on my website, any vehicle that has a sedan category selected, that would be there. And I can show things like maybe less than maybe $10,000. And so that could be a category. So this vehicle would then fall into, two categories. I can add a description.
What if I don't have those categories on my website yet?
You can add them here, and we'll populate them for you, or you can add them on your website as well. So either way.
Gotcha.
This will create it. And then the other thing that a lot of folks are not familiar with is you can create your own YouTube account, and YouTube is owned by Google. One of the nice things is you can create a video. You stick the video on your YouTube account. You'll get an ID number. You put the ID here, and all of a sudden that would show on your website. So that's kind of a neat thing as well. Book values. We have 2 book values that we integrate within the system, Black Book and NADA Book. They're both available. They both require a separate subscription. They're $65 per month, each one, in case you're interested. One of the nice things is, because the software, of course, is web-based and everybody in your office has access to it, whenever you have the NADA account or the Black Book account active, everybody can access that account, if that information, if you need them to. So the F&I guy can access that when they're doing a deal for the bank, and your internet guys can access that if they want to be pricing the vehicles on the website, whatever it is that you need. So it's kind of neat. So it's not like having to have a separate account for everybody on their phones. We mentioned the verification already. Then we come to printing, and this is where you can put the buyer's guide. You can print the buyer's guide. The buyer's guide will allow you to say whether you're selling the vehicle as is, if you want to give a warranty with it, if you want to sell it as is and offer a service contract, you check the little box. If there's any remaining warranty, any manufacturer's warranty or other warranties that are coming with the vehicle where you're still selling it as is, you can check those. You can print it not only in English, but also in Spanish for those of you that may be conducting transactions in Spanish. The Federal Trade Commission and therefore the states all say, well, if you conduct transactions in Spanish, you should have the Spanish version of the buyer's guide, because that's what the Federal Trade Commission's used car rule would have you do. I think most everybody knows what the buyer's guide is, but if you're not familiar, I think I've got a buyer's guide that I selected earlier, and I will see if I can share that real quick just for 2 seconds to let you look at that one. Can you see that? Is there something in the way?
Do not see it, just still seeing the main screen, your DMS. Yep, you got it.
So that's the buyer's guide, and the buyer's guide, this is the latest version of the buyer's guide. We know every now and again we'll still see some folks that have a buyer's guide that they've bought, they've had on their shelves for a number of years and they're still using. They don't have these non-dealer warranties things on the front page. That's a clue that you're using the old version that's been gone for a couple of years. And on the back of the buyer's guide, there should be a place for your telephone number and an email address. That was a new addition to the form. You always had to have the telephone number. It just didn't ask you for it, although it should have been there. And then, you know, who do you want to see for complaints after the sale? We've got there, no complaints is who we've got. So anyway, you can have, you know, your compliance officer maybe added for that. Going to go back to sharing my my main screen here. Back to car sales, and you should see that. So other things that we have there, consignment agreements. If you're buying a car from an individual, if I did buy this car from Kevin, he may not have a bill of sale or odometer statement for me. I can click on the bill of sale or odometer here, and it will create that, show my dealership as the buyer, Kevin as the seller, so we can agree to the mileage and we can agree to the sales price, and I've got something for my records. Most states have a requirement that you have a copy of the bill of sale and odometer statement in stock, you know, or in your office in case you're audited by the local state inspectors. And so that's good information to have right there. So if you don't have one, this is a good place to print it. Another thing that I like to mention is the title, the title that you get. So if I got that title from Kevin, then I would assign it on the back to my dealership. He would sign as the seller, and the title work at that point. I can keep that title in a, you know, hopefully a fireproof, waterproof safe or something like that, so that if it's involved in a flood or a fire, it's nice and safe and secure if I'm holding it in paper format. Now, one of the things that I often recommend, I have dealers will ask a lot, hey, Bob, let me ask you this. Do I have to apply for the title in the dealership's name? And generally speaking, the answer to that is no, you do not. You would then use the reassignment spots on the back of the title to transfer the title to your new buyer. But there are some times that I recommend maybe it may be smart to get the title in your dealership's name, specifically if there's a lot of paperwork attached to that title, to make sure that it goes through smoothly and you're able to get a title in your name. That way, if there's been a lot of assignments on the back, maybe that could cause an issue later on. If you send that title to a customer, and I know that in almost every state I'm aware of, you never hand the title to a customer. You always go through the process of transferring it into the customer's name at the DMV office, or through the electronic title registration system, or the electronic filing system, or through DMV. Particularly important if there's lien holders involved, but you would certainly do that with the title. But I know, for example, if you're in Georgia and you have an out-of-state customer that's paying you cash for the vehicle, well, there's really no requirement for you to transfer that title into their name. And in this day and age of people shopping online and finding your vehicle and calling you from a state, 2 or 3 states away because you've got the perfect car for them, and you managed to do the deal. We'll talk about that in a little bit remotely. And then you want to send them the title work so they can transfer it on themselves. It's much easier if that title ever gets lost or there's an issue. It's much easier if it's just titled in your name. That way, when you get a new title, it comes to you rather than have to go through the big long chain of ownership that may exist. Also, if there was things on there, maybe the ability for a state where there's finance companies involved and repossessions and excuse me, repossession affidavits and things like that. It could be a privacy issue that somebody had a repossession and then you send this to a customer. So in cases like that, I think it may be better, even though it may not be required, it may be better to title the vehicle in your dealership's name before you get around to selling that car. So just something to think about. Window sticker again, for those that may still want one of those. We have dealers that sell RVs. If you're selling RVs, you got the brand of the RV, the length of it, and the slide outs or sleeping capacity. That information can be passed to your website and populate, so you can help people with searches and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and save this unless anybody stops me or wants to ask me any more questions.
Well, you might mention, you may have mentioned it, but the odometer exemption might be changing towards the end of the year.
Oh yeah, that's a great question, and so a great point, Kevin. Thank you. So the odometer, allowing that the states have got time to be able to get their new paperwork in order, their new titling systems and their software systems updated, and they don't postpone it another year like they did last year. The 10-year exemption rule that allows you to exempt a motor vehicle from disclosing the mileage if it's more than 10 years old, that is going to change January the 1st, 2021 to 20 years. And of course, the first vehicles that will be affected will be the 2011 model vehicles. So a 2011 model vehicle come January the 1st, 2021. If nothing changes between now and then, that law should go into effect. And it's a federal law, so it affects all states. All vehicles that are 20 years old will have to have their mileage displayed in the odometer disclosures up until they're 20 years or older. So 2011 model vehicle will not be exempt until January the 1st, 2031. So there we go. So let's see. I'm interested in the collections, on how to operate work collections and the letters and emails. Susan, we will get to that shortly. So stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and save this vehicle, and I can export that to QuickBooks. I'm just going to tell it no right now, and I can manually add that later on. Let's see, I'm going to go down to the stock number, so I'm not going to change it. I'm just going to go ahead and accept that stock number. I have multiple companies, and so it's looking at my stock numbers and saying, hey, you may have the same stock number in another company, and that's okay. So. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, now we've got the vehicle in inventory. If I ever wanted to go back and browse and look at that vehicle, we can click on the browse tile, or we can click the drop down and choose browse. If we'd taken that vehicle on consignment, find out we weren't going to be able to sell it, we wanted to delete it, we could certainly delete it later on. And so really that's what I wanted to cover in inventory. I'm going to go ahead and jump over, and we'll talk a little bit about sales, and we'll look at some things there that maybe we missed. But before we get to the sales, I want to just state that there are some things in inventory that you can set up. And if we look at the utilities and setup company, and we look at the car company setup, there is an inventory tab. And so if there are things, and can you guys see that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that my windows, when they pop up, they don't end up not being able to see them. So what happens here, we have the inventory defaults, where we're letting the program assign stock numbers. We're allowing the use of floor plans on the inventory screens. We have some default lot numbers. Lot numbers are always worthy of revisiting. A lot number refers to an inventory category that we can define. And we've already defined just a few for you, but you can define the rest yourself. And basically, what it allows me to do is to separate my inventory into different categories, or, if you will, different filing cabinet drawers. So if you were to create an inventory file when you buy a vehicle and you put all the information in there and you stick that in the top drawer of your filing cabinet, that might be lot number one. And so lot number one might be where you have your vehicles that you have on your lot for sale. When you sell that vehicle, you probably go into that filing cabinet drawer, take out that file, and maybe move it to the bottom drawer, and we would call that lot number 99. So when you sell a vehicle, it will automatically come out of your active inventory and go into the sold inventory. So you don't have to do it. It does it for you automatically. But that's what the lot numbers do. When you repossess that vehicle, because it was sold and now it's no longer still sold, but it's no longer sold, we bring that information back out and we create a new file and we put it into the repossession lot, in this case, lot number 2. So that's what's going on with lot numbers. We have a similar concept for customer account types. We refer to those as account receivable types. So lot numbers refer to inventory, account types refer to customer accounts, and we'll look at those as we go. So anyway, there are certain things in here that you can turn on and off, so just be aware of those. You might have noticed when I put the vehicle in at $5,000, it automatically priced it at $89.95. Why? Because that's the way I've got my pricing formula set, my down payment populated at 15%, and the minimum price populated at plus 1,500. So we've got that information that we set up, and then it transfers over. The other thing that I think is always worthy of a mention as well is we have a lot of dealers that use our program for doing what I call bank financing, and as well as cash sales and buy here, pay here. And from time to time, those dealers may want to figure the commission for salespeople based on the profit. And so the program can do that. And oftentimes there's expenses that the dealership may want to try to include in those calculations, so that the cost is increased by some of the other lot expenses like rent, utilities, that kind of thing. And so if you want to increase the commission or change the commission module so that you're increasing the cost of the vehicle, you can do that through the commission module using what we call a pack. And I know that different dealers call these different things. We call the change to the commission a pack fee. We also have what we call a lot fee, which actually changes the cost of the vehicle, becomes an actual cost. Most people do not use this because it interferes with your accounting, and you have to let your accountant know about it because they're going to have to deduct this from all of your vehicle costs. But if you wanted to increase your cost arbitrarily across the board on every vehicle by, 300, 500, whatever it is, then this is where you would do that. And it would automatically add that lot fee as a default repair costs on vehicles that you then subsequently add to inventory. Now, I'm not going to add one. Most people don't do that, but that's what it's there for, just in case you ever saw that and wondered. So we have a lot number, or a lot fee, and we have a pack fee. Two different things, two different purposes. One increases the cost of the vehicle. The other one just increases the cost before a commission calculation. Now, let's jump to the sale. And what we want to do is we want to look at selling a vehicle. Now, I'm currently in Florida, and one of the things that I did mention before I do a sale here, let me just jump to Georgia real quick. Otherwise, I'll forget. And so for the Georgia dealers, when you put a vehicle in inventory, and I'll just pick one that's already there. I'll pick a Hyundai Sonata. Looks like it's even in there twice. And what happens is you have under the verification, we have here the Georgia emissions test that I mentioned earlier on. So that's what's going on there with the emissions. So let me jump back to where I was. I'm going to go ahead and for right now. We're going to jump back to Florida. And so now I'm in Florida. You'll see the screen change there. That's how quick it is to change from one company to another. So if you run in multiple stores and you don't have multiple programs yet, that would certainly be useful. I know that we've got a lot of dealers still on our existing desktop program. Oftentimes they'll tune in to watch this to learn a little bit about the online version. Hopefully you don't see too many scary things, that there's not too much of a huge change, because we try to keep it somewhat similar when we go from one to the other. Maybe closer to the end of the presentation, if I think about it or remember, I'll try and show you a quick sneak peek of the new version of our software if I have access to it, but we'll look at that in a little bit perhaps. So sell a vehicle. So we have a customer come in, we want to sell them a vehicle, and what I'll do here is click on sell a vehicle, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to start on the finance deal. In some states, Georgia, we don't allow you to do that. In Georgia, you've got to start on the vehicle. We don't even ask you. We take you directly to the vehicle. The reason for that is we grab the title ad valorem tax value on the way into the deal so that you'll already know what the value of the vehicle is. Less important now because it's a, sometimes you're basing the ad valorem tax on the actual sales price again. And sometimes you're basing it, if it's a buy here, pay here, on the value of the vehicle. But so in Florida, you could choose either one. I'll just go straight to the vehicle. We'll select a vehicle first, and I'll choose the Honda. There it has the miles on it, and it reminds me that it's got a branded title and special forms may be required. So, and it's reminding me not only branded, but also a salvage title. So that'll give me a heads up on that. Now, the vehicle may have been in inventory for quite some time, and when we checked it on the way into inventory, there were no recalls. It may be prudent to do another check just in case. This morning or yesterday, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration issued a recall on that vehicle. It would be nice to let the customer know at the time they're buying it whether there's any recalls open or not on that vehicle. So that's something to consider there. Also, a last chance to check the mileage to make sure the mileage is still current, or if we've been driving it, we can go ahead and increase the miles at this point so the odometer statement is correct. Maybe I want to get the customer's information. I can certainly type it straight in here. I think nowadays it's highly likely that you've had communication with the customer before they show up, and it may be the customer has already filled in the information on your website. And if they filled some contact information or credit application in on the website, that information can then be downloaded into the prospect manager in the software, and that information can be transferred across right into the deal here. Now, I just happen to have a social security number that I remember when I plug that in here, it uses some prior deal information. So if you've had a customer and you plug in their social security number again, it will let you go back and look at their payment history. You can use the prior deal information, so you don't have to type any of that information in. It automatically scans the Homeland Security database to let you know that it's okay to sell Bob Higgins a car. He's not on that list. It tells you that my social security number was issued in the great state of New York. You might say, well, Bob, that sounds like a funny New York accent you've got. You know, you kind of been there. You kind of been there all your life. And basically what it will do is it will use the first three numbers of the social security number to identify the state that was issued in. It doesn't mean that's where I was born or where I lived or anything like that necessarily. It's just where it was issued. And that was true up until I think somewhere around about 2011 or 2013. I forget the exact date. But if you type in a number and it says invalid, there's a little box out to the side out here in the next to where the state is with a question mark, and you can click on that and it will take you to the Social Security Administration's website, where it will explain that just because it says invalid, it may not actually be invalid. What they did was they took the first three digits, and back in 2011 or 13, whenever it was, they started randomizing the numbers, so you couldn't guess the first three numbers of somebody's social security number based on where they lived. You know, we're all very familiar with the concept of giving the last four numbers And if you give me the last 4 numbers of your social security number, and I know where you were from or where you were born or where you grew up, I can guess fairly accurately at the first 3 within a few. And that only leaves me 99 guesses to guess your social security number. So there is that randomization now. So we still think it's relevant because the customers that are buying cars right now are not old enough to be part of the randomization. So they'll still have a valid social security number that will tell you where it was issued, unless they're a recent entry into the country and have recently been given a social security number in the last few years. So if you do have somebody who has immigrated into the country, they may have a social security number that doesn't comply. Don't let that scare you. Just know that it was issued more recently, more likely. So,
Bob, that social security number will also, if there's any deposits, if you've taken a deposit on a vehicle and then you go to sell a vehicle and you put in that social security number, it'll scan and say, oh, this customer has a $500 deposit. Would you like to apply it to this deal? So it kind of captures things across different sections of the program.
Yeah, it really does. And that's a great point because, Kevin, a lot of people will take deposits. We used to liken that to a layaway program. The customer didn't have enough money right now to buy the car with the down payment that we wanted. So, hey, we'll just go ahead and we'll take that and we'll hold it to stop you spending it right now. And then when you come back with the extra money, we'll put it towards it. So the customer gives you $500 deposit. You really wanted $1,000. They come back next week with $1,000. So your cash sheets are correct. The $500 goes on today's cash sheet for the deposit. Next week, you show $1,000 down, but $500 was on a prior deposit, a cash sheet. So the only thing that would be on this one, if you use that $500 deposit, will be the additional $500 that they're bringing you. So your cash sheet will be correct, but so will all the paperwork for your deal. So that makes it particularly nice. License check. Well, I've got the ability here to do the driving license check. I've got, the state of Georgia here, and I don't know if you can see, you can't see that screen, can you?
So we just see the DMS, Bob.
Yep, I thought so. How about that now? Hold on. How about that? So when I click on that license check, if you're in Georgia and you have a Georgia customer, or you're not in Georgia and you have a Georgia customer, again, it will capture that driving license number into the clipboard. So all you got to do is right click and paste it, click continue, and it's going to tell you this driver's license is valid. Lucky guess. So if it wasn't valid, it would say it wasn't valid. Now, it doesn't tell you any more information, at least in Georgia, than that. And I know that Florida has a driving license check as well. And Kevin, does the driving license check in Florida give you any more information other than it's good, bad, or?
Just a tad bit. It'll say valid or not valid. I think it'll show the expiration date. So you know their birthday and the expiration date there. That's about it.
Fantastic. Good deal. So we got the address, and I might be curious as to find out if that what the customer's house looks like. Wouldn't that be useful? So it may be that you can click on the map down here. It'll draw you a handy dandy Google map. And if your customer lives on one of those streets where the Google truck is driven down, or the Google, you might have seen it, the Google car with the big old camera thing on the roof, then you'll be able to see what the customer's house looks like. So that may be of interest to you. Certainly, it's a good way to check if it's a valid address. Of course, if it's a newer house, it may not be there, right? Because you may have a field in there, but as long as Google's up to date, it'll have something. We've got some printing options down here that's always useful. You can print a privacy statement. You can print a credit app, a credit denial letter if you turn them down, if you're doing credit bureau checks, a risk-based pricing disclosure if you happen to charge the customer more money or more interest rather because their credit is not so good as most of your customers. And so there may be a risk-based pricing going on. You can print that out from here as well. If you want to give the customer blank credit app, you can give them one and they can hand scribble the information and hopefully you can read it later. It's also worth putting in here the insurance information, their expiration date. If you're doing buy here, pay here, it'll let you know when it expires. Your customer's cell phone, which one is the primary. Most people these days have a cell phone, might not have a home phone. Email address, and then you can text. You can choose to opt them out if you don't want to send them texts or emails. But if you're going to send texts and emails to them, you would make sure you uncheck those boxes, get their permission. have them sign something later on that says, hey, you can send me a text message using a cell phone disclosure. And when you set up our communications module later on, you'll be able to then, when you take payments, send receipts to the customer and so forth. So that's kind of useful to have. If you check those boxes, you'll not be able to send emails or receipts to those customers. It'll block you from doing that from within the program. There's a couple of boxes along the top that may be worth mentioning. Add a spouse, add a co-buyer, or add a co-signer. Well, a spouse, so maybe my wife and I are buying a vehicle, but my wife doesn't want to be on any of the paperwork. But you still want her information, because if you're going to repossess that vehicle from me later on and she's driving it, it may be useful to know where she works. So you can add the spouse, so you've got that as information, but they wouldn't be on any of the paperwork. If they're going to be on the paperwork, you just add them as a co-buyer, and then you'll have 2 names on the title, 2 names on all the paperwork, and 2 signatures to receive for all the paperwork you do. If you have somebody that's guaranteeing the payments, then that would be a co-signer. Again, they're not going to be on any of the other paperwork. They'd just be on the co-signer agreement, and they're agreeing that they'll make payments if the customer doesn't make payments. So that's what goes on there. We also have a partnership with a company called AutoZoom. So those are not familiar with AutoZoom, you can check out their website later on. But AutoZoom is just a buy here, pay here scoring tool. In the most simplest terms, we pass your information to them for sales, for repossessions, for credit applications and scoring. And what it will do is it will build a scoring based on your information, so that it knows information that you type in and how that performs compared with your information, rather than comparing it with credit application type information that may or may be less relevant to how you yourself conduct business. So it'll start giving you some scoring on your customers. So that's kind of a neat thing. You can talk to them. They have a monthly fee for the use of AutoZoom. A lot of dealers we know would never sell a car without using AutoZoom, and yet we have other dealers that are doing it very well without using them at all. So, but we make that available as a tool if you want to. We link over to them. Now, the sales calculations over here. What kind of a deal is it? $89.95 plus my taxes, my fees in Florida. It will add my sales tax. It should add the tax for the state or the county that the customer's located in. Right now I'm in Georgia, so right now it's going to change my sales tax rate for Florida to Georgia. It's going to charge me the Georgia rate that I've got set up, and in Georgia we've got a 4% sales tax rate. So in fact, actually, as far as where we used to, I should change that. In Georgia, as far as Florida is concerned, we have no sales tax anymore. So there's no sales tax for those deals. The customer would have to pay title ad valorem tax, but there's no sales tax for you to collect and send to the state of Florida. So, and that's true with some of the other states like South Carolina. You've got that IMF, and North Carolina, you've got a highway use tax. And so many states are getting away from sales tax and they're calling it something else. It's the same idea. It's money that you got to pay to the state when you sell a car. If this was a Florida customer, then it's going to create, and I think I'll change this to a Florida customer just for the heck of it. So I'm going to change the state, Florida. In fact, what I might do, Kevin, you don't have to have a Florida county zip code handy, do you?
Let's try 34480. Should be Marion County.
Let's see if I even have Marion County in here. No, I do not. So I'd have to go ahead and add that. Bad guess.
I can give you a different one, probably.
Yeah, give me a different one.
Let's try 32814.
I knew you would have one.
Should be Orlando.
Well, and I should really have all the counties in here, but I don't have Orlando. So we'll have Orange County.
Orange County, yes, sir.
Perfect. So that's good. And so now it's asking if we want to charge the sales tax rate for Orange County. So whichever county you're in Florida, whenever you sell a car to another county, you have to charge the sales tax for that other county. And so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And as you add those counties, you can add the counties. We don't keep up with the counties specifically. You have to kind of do that yourself. And there is a sheet, and Kevin will remind me of the numbers, the DR15 or DR123.
Yeah, it's the DR15 DSS. I'll drop it in the chat box for anybody.
Excellent, DR15. And so DSS, and so that's the discretionary sales surtax sheet that has all the different counties. And that's a good thing to have hanging on your wall. So if you have a customer come in from a surrounding county that you haven't sold in lately, you can just check the sales tax rate and make sure it's still good. So anyway, come over to my sales calculations. And so now we've got a sales tax for that county. And it will be based on the sales price plus the dealer fee plus any other fees that you've got in there that you're charging tax on. For example, I think the EFS fee would be a taxable fee if you charged one. Title fees, if you know what they are and you wanted to type them in there, you can do that. If you're going to be charging the customer cash on delivery for the title and tag fees in Florida, then you can leave those as zeros, and we'll put that on the form as a cash on delivery for you. In Georgia or any other state, you can put in the title fee. Just be careful that you never charge more for the title fee than the state charge you for the title fee. So in Georgia, it's $18. In Alabama, I saw Jeff over there, I think it's $16.50 is all you're allowed to charge, even though I think there you get $1.50 for collecting it. But they limit what you can charge. So anyway, if there's any questions on that, let me know. From a cash sale standpoint, this sale here is going to give me a total cash to receive of $96.6570. If this sales price was more than $10,000 when I saved it as a cash sale, what it would do is it would alert me that, hey, I've received more than $10,000 in cash within a 12-month period, and I would need to complete an IRS form 8300. So it's going to capture that for me and give me a box and prompt me to go to the IRS website, get the current version of that form so I can print it out and I can go through and fill that form in and submit it. In Florida, of course, you're required to notify Florida Department of Revenue as well. But in most other states, I think if you notify the IRS, they're happy with that. Now, I don't know if I need to say anything more about the IRS Form 8300. Let's see. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to change this because there's questions about collections. I'm going to change this to a different type of deal. If I wanted to back this out, if I had a customer say, well, that's $96.6570. I don't have all that. All I've got right now is $9,500. Can you sell me the car for $9,500? And we want to do that. I can click on special finance. I can click on $9,500 and then I can calculate it. Then what it will do is it will subtract the $165.70. It changes the sales price to $88.38.68, and it will allow me to plug in those numbers, and it will then lower the sales price, change the sales tax, and hey presto, I've got $9,500 as my money to receive from the customer. So we can certainly do that without having to get the calculator out and think, oh my goodness me, how are we going to do this math? So I really love that about the program. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to change it to a buy here, pay here deal. I'm going to change it to a buy here, pay here simple interest, because that's the way that most banks and finance companies like to buy contracts these days. I'm going to change the sales price back to $89.95 because it's not a cash price. I'm just selling the car, and the question about what will you take really never came up. The question was, how much money will you take down, Bob? And I'm just going to say I wanted $1,500 down on this deal, and we're going to go ahead. And I was trying to get monthly payments of around $400. And if all that is good, let's see what I've got. I'm going to try and charge 28%. And the problem is, Kevin, that vehicle that you sold me was almost a new car. I remember it being a 2018 model, and it says, Bob, you can't charge 28% no matter how hard you try. And so the program is automatically lowering the interest rate to, in this case, 19.8%. And if I don't know why it's doing that, I can click on here and it will tell me. And the maximum interest rate for a vehicle of this age is that.
And that's exactly how people get in trouble on that. They're used to selling older vehicles. They get a newer one, perhaps that's rebuilt or something, so it's in their price range, and they charge the same interest rate as they're used to. So that's a huge save for people. I get calls on that. People are telling me, you know, it won't let me charge enough. And Bob, I don't have 1,500. Can I give you 1,200 and the other 300 next week?
Yeah, you can do that, and you know, I'll let you. So, and how do you get paid, Kevin? You get paid by the week or?
I get paid bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly, okay.
Yep.
So I can change the down payment to 1,200, and I can change the payment term to bi-weekly, and I'll ask Kevin, you know, how much can you pay me every other week?
Probably about 150, Bob.
That's not so good, but I'll put 150 in there and see how it affects my deal. And every time I do that, you'll notice it's changing the APR. Because we're right on just below the maximum that you can possibly charge that customer. We're right there at it. So so just be careful of that. Now, Kevin mentioned pickup payments. So I can come in here and I can take a $300 additional down payment, or deferred down payment, is really what it is, but we'll refer to them as pickup payments. So I'll take a pickup payment, and then I can plug in the date. And I say, now you said you could bring me that next week. What date, Kevin? And Kevin might tell me that, well, when I say next week, what I really mean is next month, right?
Correct, exactly.
So maybe the 23rd. And so what happens is that pickup payments cannot be scheduled after the date of the second regular payment. That becomes a collection issue. So I have to schedule it before the 21st. Now he can really pay it, I guess, on the 23rd, but I'm going to have to schedule it prior to that date. It's going to give me a bit of a warning. So I can schedule it prior to that date, and it should let me go. So now I can schedule it. We're good to go. Now, what it does is it will then let me know. And of course, I've got doc stamps in the calculation. That's that 35 cents per 100 of the amount financed, and the who's paying the doc stamps. If it's a buy here, pay here deal, it's me. I'm the lien holder. So don't forget doc stamps. If you've got questions about doc stamps, certainly give me a call later on, or holler at Kevin, either one, and we'll certainly talk to you about doc stamps. But I know a lot of folks down there, Kevin, I run across them from time to time. You know, they're all set up on sales tax, but they forget when they're financing deals that there's doc stamps to be taken care of.
Yes, and that becomes a real issue because the program is gonna charge it as it should. It'll calculate it, it'll put it on the contract. But then if the dealer's not remitting that to the Florida Department of Revenue, then they're in essence stealing government funds. So if you have any questions on that, reach out to Bob or I.
And the interesting thing is, it's not a percentage. It's it's like 35 cents per $100 or any portion of $100.
Yep, any portion.
I kind of liken it to the, you know, the old, you know, it was best described to me a long time ago. Heck, it might have been you, Kevin, that described this, or your dad, maybe Don, that described this, where you used to actually take old physical stamps and lick them and stick them on the back of the contract, and you had to have a 35-cent stamp on the back of the contract for every $100 that was being financed, or portion of $100.
That was
and they would count them all up and make sure that it matched when you were audited.
Yeah, that was my first job in the car business, Bob. My dad used to go down to the courthouse and we'd buy these stamps, and then it was my job to match them up and get the right amount and everything. And apparently licking all that glue makes your hair fall out. So that's what happened there.
You'd have thought licking the glue would have made it stick to your head, but you know, who knows? Anyway, so that's the doc stamps. But yeah, we sometimes see folks that forget about those or never knew about them, maybe, you know. But anyway, so one other thing that I like to mention, it's tax season right now, is it not, in the car business? This COVID-19, are people not getting $1,200, $2,400, you know, whatever it is, $1,700, they're getting money for themselves and their spouse maybe, or the dependents and kids and all kind of stuff. And it's almost like tax season all over again. And maybe this kind of reminds me to talk about tax season. We've got our friends at the different tax preparation services, you know, whether it be TaxMax or PTS, you know, tax services. So, but what happens is those guys came to us with an idea a while back, and one of the things that we can actually do now is we can come into the calculation screen here, and we can actually schedule what we call an irregular payment into the contract. It becomes a portion of the payment that interest is being collected on up until you receive the money, and then the interest the interest stops. But and I'll show you how you can do this. Let's say that maybe this, we're in April right now, but let's just say that we were in September, October, November, maybe they're approaching the last quarter or the fourth quarter of the year. And we've got somebody that wants to pledge as support of part of their income tax checks as a down payment. We already saw you can't change the down payment by very much, and you can't go beyond the second regular due date for that pickup payment. But what you can do is you can schedule an irregular payment. So let's say the customer says, well, I'll bring you next year, and I'm just going to schedule it a few months away. I'll just say July just now, just to show you how this may work. Let's say they're going to bring you an extra $1,000 out of their tax check next year in a few months' time. So just so the interest doesn't go crazy, I just want to show you. Right now, your finance charge is $2,400 on this deal. If they're going to bring me that $1,000, their interest is going to drop to $1,800. So you could show the customer that their interest is going to reduce by $600. Not only that, but their number of payments will actually drop by, in this case, about 4 payments. So what happens is, by them giving you an extra $1,000 sooner, they're actually going to save $600. So it's really like they only gave you $400, but they're giving you the whole $1,000. It's kind of it's a win-win, because we used to always say in the buy here, pay here business, he who collects the most money before the car quits running or the customer quits paying wins. And so the goal is to receive your money best you can, for sure. And so I think it may be prudent to at least take a look at this as an option and learn how it works, and maybe consider using a tax service to have the customer, and even if you don't use a tax service, if you can get the customer to agree to bring you some extra down payment, but it's not really down payment, an extra irregular payment several months into the contract, when they get some extra money, that's going to benefit not only you but also them, and I think that's a win-win for everybody. One of the things that we've done is we've added this in Florida fairly recently because of the calculations. A little bit trickier down there. We've had it in other states for a year or two now. So it's already been in other states. Florida, this is brand new for you guys in Florida. Another thing in Florida that is something to think about is, I think, and I don't know if you're required or if it's just suggested, Kevin, are they not required, are dealers in Florida required to notify the customers that a portion of the sales tax, in this case, $570 is what the sales tax is, up to $105 can be used to go towards the Hope Scholarship Fund. Is that correct?
That is correct. It is required. It's required that you present the form to the customer and offer them the opportunity to redirect. It's the total amount of sales tax with a cap of 105. So if you were selling a $1,000 car, it would just be the total tax. But anything over, where the tax is over 105, it just caps at 105. So that money is redirected. It does not go to the Department of Revenue. It's actually sent to a party that handles this. Step Up for Students is that. I'll put a link in the chat box. But if you have questions on that, do reach out to us, because you are supposed to be presenting the form. They can contribute the 105 or not. Only certain vehicles can they actually contribute that on. And then when you run our sales tax report, you'll see that total of the Hope Scholarship contributions throughout the month will give you a total there for your sales tax return, because you have to alert the Department of Revenue you're not getting this money, and then send it to the proper agency handling it.
Fantastic. Florida tax. So doc stamps, Hope Scholarships, keeping up with all the different counties. Those of us in other states don't realize how lucky we are not to have to deal with the Florida Department of Revenue. I guess that's what happens when you don't have a state income tax. They got to get the money in other places. So we all pay. That's
it, right? exactly what happens. And because we have such tourism, they try to do it in such a ways that catch the tourists coming through as well.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate that. Alrighty. So Hope Scholarship, the Hope contribution, we can certainly help with that. I'm just going to mention that there's other types of deals. There's pre-computed interest. We have a lot of dealers that do pre-computed sales instead of simple interest sales. The ingoing finance calculations are essentially the same. The difference is pre-computed, you're not able to do this tax deferred, this irregular payment for the tax season or for seasonal payments that the customer may be getting. So this extra money that you can add can only be done on a simple interest deal. So if we change the deal to pre-computed, I'm not going to do it, that option would go away. So keep that in mind. Also, if and I've taken it out right now, but also what happens, you'll see the tax going back up. If you think about it, the other things that you can do with the customer is you can calculate what the sales price would be based on the amount to finance. So you can play with these tools under special finance. You can calculate the amount of finance based on a specific payment amount, APR and terms. So if you know the customer can only afford a certain amount for a period and for a length of time you want to be done in, you can see what the amount finance would be. You can calculate a down payment based on other terms. We looked at out the door cash price already. We can look at deal comparisons. We can see that $75 a week is equivalent to about $325 a month. That's because there's 4.3 weekly payments per month. How much is it every other week, or how much is it semi-monthly, which is the 1st and the 15th. So we have all those different payment schedules. We have the ability to look at, if I want to begin at a specific number of payments, I can show what the payment schedule would be. So let me see if I move this up a little bit. If I wanted to see what the payments would be from 50 payments going up every 2 payments, I can run a payment schedule. So I can see based on the number of payments, I can get an idea of what the payment amount would be if I shorten the term. So there's different things that you can do that with the program that's kind of nice. I'm just going to keep it where it is. You can also calculate an APR, and we have this desking function. That's the same kind of concept. I want to vary my down payment by $100, and I want to go and look at 9 types of deals. So what it will do is it will put the 1,500 in the middle down here, and it will show if the customer pays me less and his payment is the same, how many payments will he then have? And so if he pays me a little more money, his payments will shorten up. So that kind of information is available. You can play with these. So play with these tools and learn how to use them. And it really is kind of a nice, so that there's no reason for you to not be able to do business with a customer. On deal recap, what this will do is this will show you your costs in the vehicle, including your repairs. It'll show you what you're selling the vehicle for, what your profits are, profit on the finance charge, profit on dealer fee. It'll show you the profit you're making on the car, the total profit if you collect the interest, how much money you've got at risk in the street, in the buy here, pay here world down here on the right-hand side. That's how much money you've got more in the car than you got down. And how many days, if the customer pays you on time, how many days till you break even. And so that's why you may want to consider trying to get some irregular payments or pickup payments worked into the deal. That will change perhaps the amount of money at risk, and it'll also change maybe how long till you break even. I can go to print forms, and I'm not going to go through the whole print form scenario, but from the print forms, it will give you a list of forms that you've already, it's reminding me about Savage History again. It's going to give me a list of all of the forms that I've already configured for my deal. So bill of sale, odometer as is, buyer's guide, homeland security statement, privacy notice, cell phone disclosures, arbitration agreements, powers of attorney, other odometer disclosures for the state of Florida, pollution control in Florida, banker system contract, title applications, risk-based pricing notices, GPS disclosures, Hope Scholarship, contribution elections, repo agreements, agreement provided insurance, Savage disclaimer for histories. There's a vehicle title, brand, and usage disclosure. So all this stuff will pop up. We can have it pre-selected so that it knows whatever kind of deal you're doing, what forms you normally have, and then it can throw extra forms in there as they are needed for specific things. So that's my forms list. So you can modify those. I'll show you where in a little bit. You've also got the ability to print your temp tags. That's true in Georgia and Florida and South Carolina and Tennessee. Other states where temp tag printing is available in due course, we'll add it. If you're in one of those states I mentioned and you're not doing temp tag printing, let us know and we can help you with that. The EFS in Florida is the electronic filing service. In Georgia, that'd be your electronic title registration. So electronic title transfers in some states are becoming more prevalent. So that's kind of state specific. So these terms may change depending on the state. If you're doing bank financing, you can pass these deals not only to the likes of Route 1 that we've got here, or some of the other companies that we work with. We've also got the ability to use Mid-Atlantic Finance. We can send data to them. We can send data to close that up. We can send data to DealerTrack, the Credit Union Direct Lending, Credit Lane. So there's a number of places. So you can click on these and submit the data directly if you have an account with them. So really, whoever you're doing financing with, we can certainly help you there. Lien information. Usually, if you're doing buy here, pay here, your dealership's going to be the lien holder. If you have a related finance company, that's a discussion perhaps for another day, maybe for another seminar. We could talk about finance companies, but you may want the finance company to be the lien holder on the title paperwork right from the beginning. You can do that. If you're using one of the finance companies that we work with, for example, Glenview out of Texas, what Glenview might do is they might want to be the primary lien holder and they want you to be the secondary lien holder. So you can set that up in here. So when you print the title paperwork, you're the second lien holder, they're the primary lien holder. They fund your deal for you. Later on, if you have to buy the deal back, they'll simply release their lien and you'll become the primary lien holder on the account. So some of that is maybe of interest to you. If you haven't got the GPS device on the vehicle yet and allocated it, the serial number to the vehicle, you can do that from here as well. So anyway, that's the deal done. And then all we would do is we just save this deal and it's going to ask me how much money I'm receiving now, 1,200. How am I getting the money? We can allocate the money so that it knows to track that for Form 8300. We'll click on Save the Deal, and the deal is done. Don't want to print a payment schedule now. I don't, but I could print a payment schedule for the customer and give it to them. I don't need one ordinarily. Customer may have access to that through one of our payment partners or something like that with likes of CarPay. So just kind of keep that in mind. I see another question. Is that for us? If I was to sell a vehicle to an out-of-state customer, I'm assuming I would have to contact the out-of-state DMV and print out their required forms. Well, yeah, Chris, depending on what state you're in and what state the vehicle is going to, if you want to record your lien, then you would absolutely get the paperwork from that state. If you're using our partner TitleTech have a national titling system that you can utilize if you're set up to do that, where they can get all the fees and stuff so that you know exactly what you need to send that state and where you need to send it all so that you can get your title transferred into that customer's name and get the lien properly recorded so that you can then get funded. If it's a cash customer, oftentimes the dealers will just hand the title to the customer. I don't know that's a great idea, but that sometimes happens. And you know, I would certainly want to have copies of all that. And I would want the customer to sign an acknowledgement that they've actually received all that, so they don't come back later on and say, "Oh, I never got it. You know, you lost it, not me." So just be mindful of that. But that's a good question. Hopefully I answered that question for you. Let's see, what else?
Bob, you might mention trade-ins just in case we have any newer people there. Because sometimes they put a trade allowance in there, but they leave the ACV as 0, and then they look at their profit and loss, and they're selling cars and losing money.
It's fantastic, Kevin. I'm glad you made that request. So let's just say that we want to sell a vehicle. We'll just look at one real quick. We'll just look at an example. And we'll start on a finance deal here. And I want to sell a car for $8,000. And I've got my sales tax and my fees. And I come down to the trade-ins. And what I do here is I can click on the little magnifying glass and just let me know that I've got choose a vehicle in another state, but that's okay. So I've got an allowance. I want to maybe give the customer, this is what the customer wants of his vehicle. He wants $3,000. I won't take a penny less than $3,000 for that car, he says. So we say, okay, well, we'll give you $3,000. And then does he owe any money on it? That will have to be figured into the deal. And so, you know, we ask him, do you owe any money on this? And we check, they do the DMV VIN check in Florida and in Georgia. We check with the eDrive system and check to find out if there's any liens on that vehicle. We check the number of liens. We check the payoffs on those liens. And he owes $2,000. And then what is the actual cash value of the vehicle? What that is if I was to buy that vehicle at the auction today, what would I pay for it? And, you know, if I was really good, maybe the vehicle's got a $4,000 ACV. You know, that means I'm allowing them 3, but the car's worth 4. If it's not such a good day, I'm allowing them 3 and the vehicle's only worth, you know, let's say $1,500. The vehicle's worth $1,500 and he still owes $2,000. So we're upside down on the deal. That would be what we call a loss on trade. And the payoff gets added to the deal. But we want to be careful of making sure that we have those numbers in there correctly. That ACV becomes the new cost of the vehicle and it goes into inventory on the new deal. So it shows a loss on this one. And then when I sell a vehicle later on, the profit will be on the other one if I'm able to sell it for more than $1,500. Sometimes people complain about, man, I've got to fill in all this information before I can calculate something. Not really. If I click this quick trade button, then I'm able to go back to the deal and see how it affects my profit. And so it'll let me see here. I've got you know, unfortunately I don't have a cost of this vehicle in here, but if I had a cost, it would figure it in and the profit would be more believable. But it shows that the cost of the trade-in and what the payoff is, and down here, the cost for the actual vehicle and what I'm getting for it and what my profit or loss is. So the profit or loss shows up on the actual trade line between the allowance and the ACV. The payoff is a cost, and that gets rolled into the new sales price.
Bob, there is a question down there when you get a minute about notifications from CarPay. I believe that question was answered in the CarPay webinar the other day. I think they're working on it so the dealer's notified when they receive a payment through CarPay.
Oh, so the dealer was clear. The notification is about to the dealership. Okay. Well, it will show up in your batch process, and you'll get a little notification on the bottom that says, hey, you've received a new payment. Or when you go into the program, it will say there's new batch payments available. You go into the batch and the payments are in there. So you should see the payment that drops into the software automatically if you need to action it.
But as far as a text or an email notification, we don't currently offer that capability.
That's correct. To the dealer. I think the notification is, does CarPay notify the dealer via text or email? I'm not 100% sure. The software will notify you, I think, but you'll need to get a clarification from CarPay on that. I can't recall. We'll try and get an answer for that for you, Jeff.
I sent a message, and if I get one back before we end, I'll let you know. Okay,
perfect. Alrighty, so I'm going to cancel all that, and we're going to jump out of there. So that's the vehicle inventory. We've got the account created. When I save that vehicle into inventory, what happens is it comes out of inventory, it goes into my archived inventory lot, and the account is created on the customer. So now we have the account in there. The down payment we got is reflected on today's cash sheet. So that the cash sheet that I print should match my deposit for the bank, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And so the customer now has an account receivable. So I come in here and I can go to take a payment on that customer, and it was Bob Higgins. So hopefully there's not tons of Bob Higginses in here, but I'm going to type in the customer's last name and we'll find out. So here I am. I have a many, and and so what I'm going to do is we're going to look at the very top one there, next due date. This is the open account. The other ones are kind of paid out. And I've got show all locations. I could narrow it down by not showing all my locations. That would help clean it up. And so what I have is I've got this one here is a buy here, pay here simple interest deal. You can see that by the BS and account type number 1. It's asking me for the date that I might be posting this payment. So today's date is correct. It's saying, hey, you didn't actually print a privacy notice, Bob. Do you want to print one now or ignore this statement? I'm just going to mark it as printed so this doesn't keep popping up. And so what I have is, this is the customer's payment card on the screen that will let me know what is due. Really, there's nothing due on this customer right now. In the top bar, it says a payment for Bob Higgins is a buy here, pay here, simple interest. I've got take payment button. I've got collections. I've got payments. I've got the customer information, and I've got pickup payments. So I can see the pickup payments that I have scheduled here if I have any. And I don't have any currently due because there's none showing due just yet. There's actually nothing due, but down at the bottom, you'll see I do have pickups in here. I don't have a side note balance. If I click on the info button, I've got $4,405. You'll remember that's how much money we have at risk in the street. And so this is really just the customer's payment card or payment screen that gives us basic information about the customer. If I want to take a payment on this customer, and we'll look at that, we click on take a payment, and it's going to show me in the bottom box down here, it's going to show me how my interest is calculated on this deal. So the customer's paying me $150. How much of that is principal? How much is interest? Because it's a simple interest deal, the way that it does is it calculates the amount of interest by the day. So depending on when the payment is posted, will depend on the amount of interest that is allocated, and then the principal that reduces the remaining balance. So that's the way that the simple interest works. If it was a pre-computed deal, it's not going to calculate daily interest. It's just going to subtract the payment amount from the total balance, which would include principal and interest on the account. You'll notice at the bottom down there, the email address and the cell phone number that we have in the system. And if I have my emailing set up, emailing and texting, what will happen when I post this payment, I can save it without printing, but it will email a receipt to the customer, and it will send them a thank you message for the text. Oh, and Chris says, I notice when I take a payment that it only prints one copy. Is there an option for it to print two copies? But I love those questions. Yes. And I've actually got it turned off. What happens is under utilities, set up company information, car company setup, under the account receivable defaults, there's a question that says, oh no, it's under printing, I'm sorry, under printing, and it will say right here at the bottom of this first group, print or prompt to reprint a payment receipt. So that should answer that question for you, Chris, if you're watching that.
And Bob, I just got a message back from CarPay regarding Jeff's question. You can be notified via email, but there's not anything in your UI that shows it. So you'd have to reach out to CarPay to have them turn that on.
There you go, Jeff. Get CarPay to turn it on for you, and you should get notifications. Perfect. Alrighty, so let's see here. So taking the payments, collection notes, maybe I'm just looking through my accounts here and I want to make a note. I can flag this customer. I can block payments by clicking on the add, and I can do what I want to do. If I want to block payments to the account, if I want to flag the account, I can do that, and I can type in reasons. And then when I go to see this account again, it'll pop up and it will prompt me and remind me of that. So if I'm working the collections, I can go ahead and I can start, typing stuff in here if I want to. I'm just going to exit without saving this right now. So any changes made will be lost. That's fine. If a customer comes in, maybe we're going to help him with the vehicle because something happened to the vehicle and he's making payments, and we want to add a side note. Maybe his car broke down and we're going to add a little side note. We're going to help him with the repair because he can't afford to fix it on his own. So we'll fix it for him, and we're going to charge him for the fix, and he's agreed to pay us on the side. We can add this little side note here, and what's the date of the note? What's the amount that we're going to add, and how's he going to pay? And then what is it we're doing? And we can print a little agreement that he's agreeing to pay that for us, and then we can save that. It will add it to the side so the customer can now pay two different notes, and it will pop up, hey, the customer's got a side note due when you go to take a payment. Do you want to take a payment on that now? And so it's just a way to keep up with an extra payment for the customer. We have a lot of dealers these days that are using what I call additional fees. So customers are working with gap providers, guaranteed asset protection. They're working with collateral protection insurance, CPI. They're working with debt cancellation products, so that if a customer wants to pay a little extra as they go and they have a total loss later on, they're not responsible for the balance. So if you need to add any fees like that, we have this manage fees feature right here that allows you to go in and choose what the fee is for. So maybe we've got a PTS gap here, and it is debt cancellation or gap. We'll just call it PTS. How much is it? And let's just say it's, and I don't know how much it is, to be honest with you. If it's $5 a week and it's costing me $2.50 a week or something like that, I could put that in. When is the end date? And then what I would do is I would save that, and it will add $5 to every payment that the customer comes in to pay. Now, again, I'm not going to save this just now, but it will then break it down on the payment schedule for me. And so that's something to look into. If you need that, that's available.
Bob, there's a, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a question. I just,
and every time you interrupt me, I look like that. It's because you're up here on my other screen.
Gotcha. So Jeff has the question. During the pandemic, I've been posting a payment of $0 for a few customers that have been laid off. I hope this just pushes it to the end of the loan. Is there a correct way to do it if I don't want to impact the loan or fees?
Yeah, that'll work, Jeff. I mean, it does work. You post a zero payment for the customer and just bump the due date back. It just slides that one payment back. So, you know, I don't know if you're doing pre-computed or simple interest. If it's pre-computed, it doesn't make any change to the interest at all. I mean, it may make a difference in the rebate later on if they pay off early, but simple interest, it would accrue interest through that period potentially. So depending on the type of deal you're doing, it may increase you may continue to gather a little bit of interest, which is certainly, you know, I would think would be fair and probably earned. If you didn't want to do that, then you could always credit the customer's account at some point in the future if you wanted to. So there are dealers that are deferring payments that way, and that's fine. There's other dealers that are going in and refinancing deals. There's dealers that are providing credit to the customer account, you know, and what that does is it actually really forgives a payment, you know, so rather than just slide it back and, hey, you don't have to pay this week, but you'll still owe it, but later on, once you start your payments again, once you start working again, you'll pay it. So it's not, I'm not giving you this payment, but if you wanted to give them the payment, then you would do that through actually crediting the customer's account. So that would be the other way to do that. Let's see, we've got, we're closing in on about 25 minutes left, and I promised Susan a little bit more about collections and how to work the collections schedule. And what I want to do is I'm going to click on this work collections. There's really as we have as many different dealers using the program, we have as many different dealers that operate different ways for doing collections, and there's no right way, there's no wrong way. We have this work collections schedule, and we have two formats of it. We've got down here at the very bottom, we've got use the new collectors work list and collection note screens or not. And so I'm going to use the new one. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to list your customers, obviously by their name or their due date. You can look at it for all salespersons, or you can break them down. You can schedule this to look for a specific number of days past due. So if you didn't want to start looking until there were 5 or 10 or 20 days past due, you can change that, and you can change the last number of days. So I show me everybody between 1 and 5 days late, or 5 and 10, or 1 and 10, or 3 and 15, or whatever it is. And then remember, we talked about customer account types. Customers, where we mentioned them briefly, relating them to a finance company or a filing cabinet drawer within your finance company or within your car lot. And the customers that basically buy here, pay here, that owe you money would be in account type number 1. If it was a customer that their money was owed on, but it was from a finance company, they might be in account type 25. So they would still be on a late list, but you might not want to see them on this list because you're not going to call the customer. That would be calling the bank. You might want to see accounts that you've had a collection note in the last 3 or 4 days. There's really no sense in calling them again. You just called them. So depending on how you do that, you can limit the list, and then you can show this list with default actions to take. So if this was a list that you wanted to send a letter to, you could say, well, I want to send a warning letter, or I want to send a late notice, or so you could say, you could set up letters that you want to send with default information on them based on the parameters, or phone calls. And so once you've created this, you can view the list and it will show me, and I don't know if I've got any accounts in here. Let's just see if we have any that respond. We're waiting. Oh, we've got many. So what we have, I don't know, can you still see that, or is it changed to a different view?
Oh no, we can see all of them, Bob.
You can see them all? My goodness me. So this would be a big list. So, I basically did it for everybody in account type 1 that was, forever late, and it didn't really matter how past due they were. So you can go down this list. They're all set to have no action, but if this was all send them a letter, in the batch process, it would allow you to send a letter for all of those. You can click on print all letters, and it would send letters, to them all. Actually, would print them all out. Or you could email them all, so you could send them all an email from your email account. If you wanted to highlight an individual one, so I've got this one here, it says Trust Texas. We could communicate if they were live in there. Now, my name's not going to be in there, unfortunately. I don't have my stuff. But if you had the ability to text them if they weren't opted out, and you had the information available for them, this would be live. So you could actually communicate right here from this dashboard. You could communicate directly with your customer. One of the questions there, can you talk a bit about how to credit the customer's account outside of taking a regular payment? Yeah, sure. So let's just say we talk to one of these customers and they say, well, it's COVID-19, I'm having a real hard time, and you go into the customer's account. And so let's just go into the customer's account. We're going to credit their payment. And so let it load. I don't want to show all my locations. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'll just, let's see here. Well, I'll just pick what happens paid out.
You might take the opportunity. Well, when we get back, I was going to say you can sort those by type just by clicking the top column there.
Yeah, that's a great thing to point out, Kevin. And so let me go ahead and I'll just do that. We'll just pick an account that's in account type 1. That's a buy here, pay here deal. So there's one there that's called Shane Good. And what we'll do is we'll take a payment on him, but instead of taking a payment, I think Gladys wants to see us crediting the customer's account. I'm not going to take a side note payment, but we're going to go ahead and credit the customer. And so the principal balance is $65.21. How much do we want to credit them? So if we want to credit their account by $300, I can do that. And how much in unpaid interest? Nothing right now. Do I want to change the current payment amount due or not? So yep, I can. And then what date do I want to start my interest calculation from? And then why is the reason for the credit? And we could just say it's COVID-19. So you could credit the customer's account that way. And then I'm going to save that. And then it jumps into the customer's account. The customer's balance has changed. Hopefully that will maybe answer that for you, Gladys, if you're still looking there. Any other thoughts, Kevin?
Well, you can also rearrange this if that is of interest to anybody. Like if you got something like the deal type and you want it way over to the left side, you can rearrange those columns and save the format. Which
that's a great point. I always kind of forget about that. So what you can do is you can rearrange the columns, move the ones you want to where you want them. And then when you save the format, the next time you come in, that format will be saved. But it is worth knowing that the deal types and the tops are all active, so you can sort. That's kind of a neat trick there that I always forget about. Appreciate you pointing that back out. Alrighty, any other thoughts or questions? So we kind of covered a little bit on collections. We looked at that collection workstation a little bit, and really go in there and play with it. The more you play with it, the better it will make sense to you when you look at your accounts. And once you start looking at your accounts and the data that it's given you, and you know where your accounts are, and you see the data, it will make sense to you. Now, sometimes you're going to have to repossess a vehicle and the customer doesn't pay you or whatever. You can come in here and repossess the vehicle. And I want to spend a ton of time on repossessions. We did one of these a week or two ago. We talked a little bit more about repossessions, but basically there's depending on the state you're in, there's requirements to either notify the customer before you repossess the vehicle or not. And once you've gone through the notification process, if you're required to in South Carolina or Missouri or Kansas, once you've done that and given the customer the right to cure the default, if they haven't, and you end up repossessing the vehicle anyway, or in states where you don't have to notify, like Georgia and Florida, where you can just go get the car when the customer's passed through, you go ahead and you repossess the vehicle. You get the car back on your lot. Now you have to start the work with determining what you're going to do with the vehicle and how you're going to account for that vehicle, and what notifications you're going to send to the customer. So I'm going to click on repossessions here, and we'll pick a vehicle that is in here's an account that we can show. For example, the date of the repossession is today. Was there a fee for repossessing it? I sometimes get people say, well, Bob, I just want to charge $500 there. I'm like, well, you just can't charge $500. It has to be the cost that you incurred is the way that I understand it. In other words, you can't just add money to the customer's account because you want to without justification. But if you have to pay a repossession company $350 to spend a couple of weeks looking for the vehicle and put it on a rollback and bring it to you, and you write them a check for $350, you could certainly put $350 in there. But if you just had somebody drop you off at Walmart one night with if you happen to have a spare key laying around that worked, and you jumped in that car and brought the car back to your lot, it didn't cost you anything, I don't think you could add a fee there. At least check with an attorney before you did. Don't charge a legal fee unless there was one. And then is the repossession voluntary or not? That's particularly important maybe in Tennessee, where the amount of the credit you get for a sales tax credit when you repossess a vehicle varies or may vary. And we're going to say that we've got possession of the vehicle. I want to put in what the actual cash value was. I'm going to say this vehicle was still worth $3,000, and that will become the cost of the vehicle in inventory for me. That number is used for my accounting with the IRS. They want to know what was the value of the vehicle that you repossessed so you can properly write off the balance. It's not got anything to do, in theory, with what you subsequently sell the vehicle for and account to the customer. So just be mindful of that. Put the vehicle back in inventory. I want to sell it for $7,000, and I plug in all the information. Now, I'm going to click on so you can see the print and repossession letters here on the left. And it's telling me I should send a notification via certified mail. I can plug the certified letter number in here. I can print the letter that I choose. It has some explanations of the letters. And generally speaking, we're going to send a letter that says, hey, we got the vehicle, and the money we get from the sale will apply to what you owe. If we owe you more money, if we sell it for more than you owed, we'll owe you the difference. If we get less than what you owe, we can pursue you for deficiency balance. You can only pursue for a deficiency balance if you send this notification within 10 days of the repossession. If you wait until after 10 days, when you send the letter, you're not going to be able to pursue a deficiency balance. Now, if you don't want to go run down to the post office yourself and post this letter and all that stuff, one of the things you can do, we have this blue button on the right-hand side called automated certified repo mail. we work with a company called noticeofintent.com. And one of my friends, Miles Stevenson, he runs this company in the great state of Kentucky. And what he will do, you click that button, it'll transfer all the data to his software online for you, and he will get that, and he will drop the letter in the mail first class as well as certified. So that may be something that you look into down the road. But for repossessions, just know that you would want to send the correct letter. You want to make sure you're doing doing the correct thing with the vehicle. And then subsequently, when you sell the vehicle, you would then come back in to the software, and what you would do is you would sell the vehicle through the software, either wholesale or retail, however you did it. And once you've sold the deal, the vehicle, and done the paperwork in accordance with the letter that you sent, you would then come in here and enter the sale of the vehicle. And once you've entered the sale of the vehicle for that particular repossession, I'll just pull one up here. It will allow you to put in who the buyer was. It'll allow you to put in, it knows the recorded sale of this vehicle was $8,000. It knows what you sold it for. It will allow you to put that in, and then it will then provide you the ability to, based on that, to print the explanation of the amount that the customer either owes or that you then owe the customer for the customer. So just be careful of all of that you're using that in the correct format. But there's two different accountings. There's what you have to account to the IRS for based on the actual account and the balance and the actual cash value that becomes the cost of the vehicle when you subsequently resell it. And then there's what the customer owed you and what you sell it for and what they now owe you, which is two different things. The ACV doesn't enter into that. Sometimes that gets confusing. And then once you've decided that you're not going to collect any more money from this customer whatsoever, you're done pursuing them, then you can finalize the repossession and post the payoff. Be careful how you post the payoff on the repossession, because make sure you check with how you report your accounts to the credit bureau. That will have an effect on whether there's a balance that's written off and all that stuff. So be mindful of that. Gladys, you're good. I see there.
A couple more in there. A couple of good ones.
Okay, I see that one there, Diego. If a customer default of his insurance, which he canceled, could I pick up with notice or letter in South Carolina? No. It's a great question. I get that all the time. I'm not an attorney, so you would want to check with your attorney. But here's the way that typically would work. If an insurance, this happens, this is anywhere actually. If the customer cancels insurance, the contracts that are generally provided or that you're probably using with the software are banker systems contracts, or you may be using your own contract. But the contracts that you use will, generally speaking, to protect you, give you the ability that if the customer goes into default because they haven't maintained insurance like you've required, they will give you the ability to buy insurance that protects you in case that car gets wrecked or totaled or something like that before you have an ability to repossess it. So because you have an ability to buy the insurance, which protects you, you can then pass that cost on to the customer. Now, if the customer does not pay that or bring his account up to date, once he goes past due and you've gone through the steps, then you can repossess the vehicle. But yeah, that's a great question, Diego, because you could be, if you pick up the vehicle just because you didn't keep insurance, you could have bought insurance to protect yourself, is what the court is going to rule. And even though he's in default, and even though he doesn't have insurance, the problem is I have seen dealers get nailed with lawsuits for repossessions that were essentially not legitimate, and so unlawful repossession, because the customer is having a hard time paying his bills right now, and insurance is a bill and he's paying it monthly, and he's sitting there watching TV one night during this COVID-19 pandemic, and my goodness me, there's a funny talking Geico a lizard comes on there and tells him he can save money by switching to them. So what he does, he picks up the phone, he makes a phone call, and you ain't gonna believe it, he's able to save, I don't know, $500 a year maybe by switching to Geico or some other finance, or rather insurance company. And so he cancels his Allstate policy, switches to Geico or vice versa, and you get a cancellation notice. You repossessed the car and you didn't know that he had already bought insurance somewhere else. So it can be a tricky proposition. And of course, that doesn't happen all the time. But you do have to be mindful that a wrongful repossession lawsuit can occur when you could have maybe taken another course of action. So hopefully that answers that question for you. I would not do it, but check with an attorney. If they want to defend you in court, follow their guidance. But another one says, I have a deal that's outside deal. I can't write it off because it's considered an outside deal. Do you have another option to get that deal out of my account receivables? I'm not sure why you would write off an outside deal. I'm not sure there. You could post a zero payment if it still is an outstanding account receivable. So if the finance company owes you, $8,000 and they're not going to pay you and you can't find them anymore and they're gone and you sent the title and you never got the title back and the car's gone and you're writing off the balance, then you would probably just post a zero and it wouldn't be a write-off because it was never an account receivable that you paid income tax on, but it's money you're not receiving. So you would show no profit on that deal. It would be a negative profit. Your cost of your car was, $6,000, you only got $1,000 down, you have a $5,000 loss. So that might be, and how to get it out of your receivables. I'm not sure exactly, Chris, what that question is. It might be a phone call for us later on to get a better understanding of that specific account. The other thing that might be if the deal just never got funded, then you would reverse that sale, becomes a buy here, pay here deal, and either repossess the vehicle and it becomes a buy here, pay here deal, and you go through the repossession write-off process if that's what you had to do. So that may answer that question. I'm not sure. Let me know. It is hard to explain. So give us a call. Okay. Any other questions on that? I want to talk about reports real quick, just because we're getting close to the very, very end. Reports are huge. We have tons of reports in the system. The reports that we have are limited in some case to the amount of real estate on a piece of paper that we print out of your printer. So for example, if we want to print a standard sales report for just the sales that we did today, so here I want to see all the sales I did and I want to look at it for just today. And I'm going to view the report. It will show me this one sale to Bob Higgins, the 2018 Honda Civic. One of the nice things about viewing it to the screen is I can click on the blue name right there. If I click on my blue name, it will automatically pull up the deal that I did. So I can go back and look at the deal. So you see that blue, that's what that is. And it's on a lot of reports, you'll see the blue on something. If I click on the blue vehicle, guess what it's going to do? It's going to show me the vehicle. And you'll notice that this one's already now sold. It's in lot number 99, status is sold. So we took it out of inventory and put it in my sold file. We still have a record of it in the system. It's just in a different filing cabinet drawer. Now, the report here has, it has a lot of information, but it doesn't have all of the information that is available about this deal. So if I wanted to see really, really more information, I can click on the export data down here on the left-hand side where it says export the spreadsheet, and it will create a CSV file that I can open in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets or something like that. And I can open that file up and it has a ton of data. And so you will often have dealers that will use that. You can manipulate it and take out columns you don't want and create the information so that you want. So just know that that's available. It will then total up information at the bottom for you. This is your total buy here, pay here, simple interest deals, and then your totals for the report. Of course, we did one sale today, so it's all the same. And really get used to look at these reports, look at one deal, then look at the report for that day, and it will give you a great indication of the information that's available. So just know that there's spreadsheets that spread out. Inventory reports. The inventory report, I can't really run that by date range because what would happen is we've got two types of reports. I've got reports that I can run by the date that I did things. What did I sell? I can do that by the date range that I sold my vehicles. Inventory would be a snapshot of what I have in inventory at any given point in time. So I can't separate that by date range, but what I can do is I can separate it by lot number. So if I've got my vehicles separated into different categories, I can say, show me all the vehicles in lot 1 through 1. That might be all of the vehicles in my top filing cabinet drawer. Remember, my repossessions might be in lot number 2. So I could say, show me all the vehicles I have in lot 2 through 2. That would be my repossessions. And if I had a lot that I designated for getting ready for sale, maybe when I buy a vehicle, it goes through a reconditioning stage, might be in lot number 5. I allocate that to that. Maybe I buy some boats, and so I've got a file for some boats. That might be lot number 10. I don't know. So when I want to just see my boats, not all my vehicles all mixed together, I just say lot number 10 through 10. So that's how I can use my lot numbers to give me meaningful reports. If I wanted to see what did I buy just this year, I would be looking at inventory, and I would be looking at a cars purchased report, and not only purchased, maybe traded in, repoed, or whatever, all vehicles. And I can do the beginning of the year to the current date. So I can see what I bought. I can see what I have in stock. So different reports for different reasons. So I call them reports for where I am and reports for what I've done. So 2 different types of reports. A snapshot tells me where I am. And that's also true with, for example, account receivable, customer summary. I can do a snapshot of my customer types, account type 1 through 1, customers in my buy here, pay here lot, or that owe me money. I can run a report just for that range, and it's going to be everybody that owes me money that's within that filing cabinet drawer. Again, you can see the blue. I can click on the stock, the SN number here, and what it does, it takes over to my payment history for this particular vehicle or this particular customer. If I click on the account number, it'll take me to that customer's deal screen again. So there's some neat information that I can see. I can also check different things. So if I want to just see the summary only, I can do that. And again, I can send this information to an Excel file. I can do the same thing with my inventory report. Once I've created my inventory report, I can view that to the screen, and you can see I've got a blue stock number will take me right to the vehicle. So it's kind of nice. I can run an inventory report to the screen. I can scroll down looking at it, and as I look down my inventory list, if I see something that doesn't look right and I think, man, I need to change that, all I need to do is just click on the stock number. It will open that vehicle up. I can make the change. Once I make the change, I can save it, and the change will have been made. If I wanted to see the change reflect on the report, I just click view the report again. It will rebuild it, and that change will be then reflected. So it's really kind of nice. That's a kind of a trick. And again, you can export it to a CSV file, and it has all the information about that vehicle. Interesting thing, yeah.
I was going to mention Gladys has a question about reports when you get a chance, and also I thought I have a chance. Yeah, I thought I mentioned there at the on our download site, she can download a year-end reporting handout there, so that everybody knows. Yeah, so
WayneReaves.com. There's a downloads tab on WayneReaves.com, and down that list, one of our senior techs, one of our senior technical support analysts, Louis, has created a great year-end accounting guide that gives you information about what information you get on the reports. So when people want your reports, they'll want to know. So the year-end is great, but one of the things that you'll want is a beginning inventory and an ending inventory. So this master inventory report for the beginning of the year, and again for the end of the year, you'd want both of those. The IRS is going to require that you maintain inventory, and you do an inventory report one time a year, and you should do it, every week, I would think, or more. But anyway, at least beginning and the end. And then you want a sales report that shows you what you sold. In Florida, there's tax reports, and in any state, when you run your sales tax report, your sales tax credit reports, it will give you the reports you need to help you compile your sales tax. So those reports are available. They're generally speaking state specific. Under special state reports, we have other reports, doc stamped in Florida, we mentioned those. Tennessee, I think there's a temp tag report for Tennessee, a vehicle sold report for some of the states that require you to do a vehicle sales to help with business tax at the end of the year. Account receivable report, you'll need one of those, a customer summary that has all your account receivable balances on it. Gladys as well. So the sales for the year, you don't need every itemized one, but you certainly want the summary. But it may nice be to have every single report you did, or every line item for every vehicle, so you can always match that to all of your deal jackets in the event of an audit. And you keep all your records for 10 years at least. So once you start creating files, those files are going to be kept for a long time. The IRS going to want to go back a good number of years, depending on whether they think you've done something wrong or you haven't reported, and they want to see a report and all that good stuff. But
Bob,
that will help you a little bit.
You may have mentioned it, but all those reports can be run to a PDF as well. So I always like to, at the end of the month or end of the year, run some hard copies, also run them as a PDF, and that way you have them for future. Also, it's a great idea to get with your accountant on exactly what reports to run and run them the same way every month, every year. So you're looking at apples to apples.
Yeah. CPA will give you good guidance there. If you don't have one that you use, we can certainly, maybe recommend one or two that you would chat to, depending on what state you're in. There's a lot of CPAs that are familiar with our company. One of the nice things is they can log into the software. They can have access to it. We don't charge them for that. We don't charge you for that. They can have access to the system, and they know what reports to run. So you can give them access to your system just to run reports if you want. So keep that in mind. Really, there's also, I want to show you one other thing in here, maybe two other things. Export data. This is a huge tool that we use for other third-party companies that want data from your software. So you may work with some other companies, whether they be maybe CRMs, CPAs, whether they're a lot of lenders, big lenders, Primaland, Spartan Financial, American Credit Acceptance, Glenview, SDA. There's a whole bunch of companies in here that will like specific information on a spreadsheet, and we provide it through the system for them. They know where they are, they know how to get them. So when you give them access to your system, they can run those reports themselves without you having to do it, and they can track things. But they're just good for yourself to go in there and maybe create some reports and look at them and just see what information is on there. Maybe some good stuff for you. In North Carolina, CPA retired. I appreciate your recommendation. You got it. We'll help you out. So Gladys, make sure you've got my contact information, bob@waynereaves.com, B-O-B. Maybe Gianna can type it in there for me if you can, bob@waynereaves.com, or give my cell phone a call. My cell phone number is 478-731. Maybe I can type it. That's my cell phone number if you need it. And the email is bob@waynereaves.com. Now, let's see. I think really, if you're depending on the size of business you are, we've got a couple of financial analysis reports. We work with the NIADA 20 groups, and we also work with Subprime Analytics. It's one of the Ken Shilson groups. And so we've got some information that is useful for them. If you ever get involved in 20 groups, we've got some information that's useful to help compile reports for them here. And we work with those companies to try to keep those reports the way that they want them. So if you're ever involved in that, just let us know. Let me see, cash sheet. What did we collect today? We can run it by date range. You can run it for your customer account types. So all the money that we've received today for the catalog, we can view that report and it will show me what I received today. One of the things that we can do with this report, which is nice, if you want to go to the bank in the middle of the afternoon and still be able to print a meaningful report tomorrow in the middle of the day again, and you want a portion from what you collected, you want a start point and an end point for the report, you print it by what we call uncleared transactions. And the first time you run it, it will run that report for any transaction that hasn't been on an uncleared transaction report. So it's worth doing that and playing with that if you're not already using it. and looking at how that may help you, so that your cash sheet that shows how much money you've got due for deposit here. I've got $1,200 due for deposit into the bank. That would match my deposit slip. If I'm taking online payments through one of our credit card merchant processors, or you've got your own merchant account that you're taking credit cards on, and know that money is already in your bank and you've processed it as an online payment, then, or credit card processed, that will show in the grand total, under the grand total where it's A plus B plus C, but it will not show on a total for deposit slip. So your deposit slip will always match the amount of money you've got in hand taken into the cash drawer today. So that's kind of a nice thing that you should be able to reconcile your cash drawers with your bank deposits. And so I think with that, I'm almost kind of done on the software side. I don't know if anybody's got any specific questions. I didn't get into in a great deal. I didn't get into websites. We just did a great hour-long presentation on CarPay. I think that's on our YouTube channel somewhere. We did a website presentation one that I think is available as well. Gianna can make that available to those that want it on our YouTube as well. We covered a little bit of intelligent inventory marketing. We are a Google Premier Partner. We work with Google. We work with Facebook. So if you have one of our Reaves websites, we can help direct customers that are out there in the wild on the internet directly to your website to hopefully provide you with a meaningful, high-intent buyer that's looking for a vehicle like the one we directed them right to on your vehicle display page. So keep that in mind. And if there's any other questions, it says WorldPay and CarPay are totally different or work the same. They're currently, Diego, they're currently totally different. WorldPay is our most recent partner. They're the biggest money mover in the world, I think, just about. We work directly with WorldPay for batch payments and things like that, and putting information on your website. We also work with CarPay. They're more of a software provider that provides a tool that's integrated in the system for tracking payments. They have different cost structures and stuff, but you can look into them both. I'm not sure which one you're working with, but they do have similar names. We also work with OpenEdge for those that are using OpenEdge, and we also work with FlatRate. So those are all companies that we work with that are fantastic companies, and we enjoy good relationships with all those. So whoever you're working with, it should be good. Jeff, you're welcome. Anybody else? YouTube channel, Gianna has posted. Thank you for that, Gianna. And anything else before we wrap it up? Frank, you're welcome. Appreciate you hanging in there with us.
I think Frank's been at 2 this week. Thank you, Frank.
That's 2 he's been at. That's fantastic. We appreciate that. Well, listen, I tell you what, if we don't have any more questions, if you don't have a Reaves website, give us a call. We'd love to help you with that. And make sure that you reach out to me if you have any other questions, especially anybody looking for that, Gladys looking for that CPA. So make sure we've got your contact info, and we'll appreciate that.